Hello everyone, welcome to your economics class once again. So let's quickly start off with our lesson and like they say, be wise and revise. So let's also recap what we did in our last class. So we took up the topic of underemployment, and we know that disguised unemployment is a type of underemployment where the potentialities of any person or the total workforce or the population is underutilized, not utilized to the full capacity. He or she has more to give but is not able to give because he is underutilized. So that is a very big problem of a country like ours, especially in the agricultural or the primary sector. This is where we see underemployment or disguised employment most, where more people are working in the field than is actually required, where if we remove a few people from that particular field or work, the productivity or the production of that particular field will not reduce. And the worst part is agricultural sector is still suffering from disguised unemployment or underemployment. Just remember one thing, that unemployment is something where people are not getting any jobs, right? So employment is where you have a job. Unemployment is where you don't have any job. You want to do, you're willing to do, you're willing to work in the wage that has been given, prevailing wages, but you are not able to find any job. So that is unemployment for you. Underemployment is basically where your capabilities are misused. Now there is a kind of underemployment which is called disguised unemployment. Sometimes in the exam they can use either disguised unemployment or hidden underemployment or just underemployment. All these basically mean the same thing for all of you right now. So disguised unemployment is nothing but hidden. It is not visible. From the outside it feels like a person is employed, but actually if you look into the matter deeply, you will find that his capabilities, his potentialities are not used properly. So he seems to be employed but not, and this underemployment is a threat to our society, to our country, and it hinders the development process, and it still continues to prevail in the agricultural sector. Now for today's topic, the objectives, what we are going to study today and what we are going to understand at the end of this chapter is that we will find out ways or methods through which we can increase the employment opportunities for the people of our country. We'll find out and discuss how we can increase the job opportunities for our people. Also, we'll find out ways of reducing underemployment, which is mostly found in the agricultural or the primary sector. Okay, so these are the two goals that we'll keep in mind while discussing today's topic. So first of all, let's understand why is the agriculture sector considered to be the most labor absorbing sector. The labor absorbing sector means a sector where maximum number of people are working. So it's a very economic term to use, a labor absorbing sector. It just means simply that more people are working in that particular sector. Now why is it so? Why people are working more in the agricultural sector? Why it is considered to be the sponge where maximum people are absorbed or working? It's labor attractive. Why? It is because the secondary and the tertiary sector has failed to provide employment opportunities for our people. They have lacked in producing more opportunities, and as a result of which maximum people are still working in the primary sector. We know that the tertiary and the secondary sector have evolved over the years. Still, the number of job opportunities in those sectors is not very high. So people, whether they like it or not, they are forced to work in the primary sector. Moreover, in the primary sector, we see a lot of underemployment or disguised unemployment. So as a result, you will see that overall from the surface, it will look like people are having jobs, they are working, but actually their potentialities are not used more in the agricultural sector. Now let us now discuss and jump to the main topic. We will discuss the ways of increasing employment opportunities in our country. We'll find out how we can increase the number of people working in our country, because unless and until more people are working, your country can never be a developed country. Here we are basically going to discuss it in two phases. First, we'll understand how to increase employment opportunities mostly in the rural area. Why rural area, you would ask me? Because rural area is where primary sector is more dominant, more active, and that is where maximum number of people are working. So we will have to find out ways where these people who are working in the primary sector can be involved in some other activities and sectors to generate more employment and to generate more income. Now, why do we all work? We work so that we get a better salary, better wage, right? Better income for the family, so that your living standard goes up. So the basic idea of working is better better facilities for you and your family. So same applies for the people in the rural area. We all know India is mostly full of villages and rural areas. So here, increasing employment opportunities in the rural area is more important. Okay, now in this picture, what do you see? You see a dam, right? A very beautiful dam with all connected with canals and beautiful fields around. So what do you understand from it? You just understand that there is a very good irrigation system in that particular area, where the irrigation system means artificial watering for the fields or agricultural fields. Otherwise, what happens? Our farmers are dependent on natural rain for cultivation, right? All kinds of agricultural work. They store rainwater, they wait for the rains to come to sow their seeds and do all sorts of agricultural activities. But to actually increase your production, agricultural produce, if you want to increase it, you have to find out alternative ways of getting water into your fields, and that you can do by adopting modern farming methods, which includes various irrigation facilities. So the first way to increase employment opportunity is to construct more and more dams and canals by the government. Now just remember, dams and canals cannot be built by an individual like you and me. It has to be a government sponsored activity. It's a public facility. You cannot go and construct dam in your plot of land. It's a huge construction activity, involves a lot many other things. So these canals and dams can be constructed by the government if they make proper investments of money, so that the agricultural land can be irrigated better, so that there is more water facility in all the agricultural land in and around the dams and canals. And when there is more water facility, the farmers will be able to grow more and more crops. And when they are able to grow more and more crops, what will they do? More and more people will work in the agricultural sector, and so automatically employment will be generated in the primary sector itself. You don't need to move to a different sector to get employment. You can get employment in your own sector where you're already working, because more production means more workers are required, and when there are more workers, it means employment is there. That is your first point. Now, second initiative which the government can take to increase job opportunities or to create job opportunities is to make the infrastructure of the country better. By infrastructure, we mean better roads, better communication facilities, better buildings, better storage facilities, transportation facilities. All these are together called infrastructure. So, and includes electricity too. So when we improve all this, when the government improves all this by making investments in these particular areas, what will happen? When you will have better roads, transportation to go to the remote areas will improve. Villagers who are staying in remote rural areas, they will be motivated to cultivate more, because they will be assured that whatever they produce will reach the market faster and in a better condition. Moreover, having storage facilities, electricity will ensure that whatever you produce are kept properly. Now when I say storage facility, it could mean the godowns, it could mean the cold storages. Cold storages are big fridges, refrigerators, where you can preserve your season's produces so that you can sell it when the right time comes without them becoming bad. So basically preserving the food, whatever the farmers are producing. So all this, when you improve the infrastructure of the country or the place by the government, automatically it will help the farmers to produce more, to reach a bigger market because of better roads, better transportation, better communication, and they will also be able to sell their produces at a better, decent rate. Moreover, when all this happens, there are many extra services will crop up, like when transportation is there, right, which is a tertiary activity. Communication, storage, all these are tertiary service activities. So the moment you produce more, you will have to sell it. So all these services will be utilized. So automatically employment will be generated in these areas. So trade and transport, which are tertiary sectors, will also flourish. So that is how we can increase the employment opportunities. Now in this picture, what do you see? You see a huge market, right? What is happening? A lot of people are working, some are selling, some are buying. So many people are employed. There are some people who are carrying the vegetables to the market, the vans. All these people, more and more activities means more and more employment opportunities for the people. Third again is very, very important. Now this particular point we are going to study more in details in chapter 3, but as of now what you need to know is that the government can make sure that there is more employment. How? By ensuring that the agricultural credits are given by the local banks. Local banks could be any bank, okay, for that matter, not necessarily that government banks, any banks. The government can make some policies where the banks will give loans. Credit means loans, okay. So we'll be giving good loans to agricultural loans, means loans, the money which will be used to buy farm products, equipments, seeds, fertilizers, any other irrigation equipments. So these are necessary things for agriculture. So the government will ensure and make sure that the lot of agricultural loan or credit is given through the banks to the farmers, which will make sure that number one, they will not go to a private money lender. They will come to a bank in case they need any kind of loan, and when they don't go to a money lender, they will be saved from high interest rate loans, because the money lenders give them loans at very, very high interest rate. Moreover, the government can also increase or initiate self-help and cooperative groups. Remember, we studied self-help groups where few the people get together, pool in resources and start a business of their own or an enterprise of their own. So that is also one way of encouraging people to start something of their own and increasing the employment opportunities. So giving credits, agricultural credits to the farmers, especially in the primary sector, to invest in their agricultural fields at reasonable rates is one good way of increasing employment opportunities. One such bank that we discussed in class 9, if you remember, is NABARD. NABARD full form is National Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development. They give lot of agricultural loans and credits to farmers at very, very reasonable rates and for a longer period of time, so that they don't have to go to any money lender and end up getting loans at very high interest rates and finally get into something called the debt traps, which they should be aware of and they should try to avoid. So this is the third point. Then comes the fourth point, again a very, very important point, is to find, locate and promote potential industries, means industries which have the capacities to grow. So The fourth point is to identify. First is to identify, then to locate, and then to promote, to help. Potential means industries which have the capacities and the power to grow. Potential industries and services in semi-rural areas. Now what are semi-rural areas? Areas which are neither villages nor towns, somewhere in between. Smaller towns, you can say, where facilities are there but not very high. So those are semi-rural areas where what they can do is they can set up industries there. Okay, when first they have to identify what kind of industries they can set up in these semi-rural areas, and they can promote and help these industries to grow. Now what kind of industries? Mostly industries which are connected to agricultural work, because whatever the farmers produce in the rural areas, they cannot end up consuming everything on their own, right? Neither they can sell everything in the market. They have to find other ways of utilizing their produces. One of the best ways is to set up industries and process these food that they produce. Now some of the examples could be setting up a dal meal. Okay, suppose you're growing in that area, you're growing pulses, any kind of dal and pulses. You cannot sell everything in the market. You can have a processing unit, a dal processing unit, where you can refine the dal, package it, and then sell it in the market, because the farmers in that case will not have to go somewhere outside to process it and sell it in the market. Secondly, they can open a lot of cold storage units. Cold storage are where preservation centers, okay, where food remains better for a longer duration in time. And suppose they are producing onions and potatoes, and they can save it, store it in this cold storages, and sell it in the market when they get a good price, and they don't have to wait and sell it whenever the produce is produced. Why? Because if they sell it at lower prices, they will be facing a loss. Then comes the other one, setting up industries that process vegetables and agricultural produce, which can be sold to outside markets. So they can also, because fruits and vegetables, if you're producing, not everything you consume fresh, you can also open up industries, small scale maybe industries, where you can process the food. Okay, food processing units, making of preserves, jams, pickles, all this can be done. Okay, and this can not only help in setting up industries, it can also help in developing these semi-rural areas. Okay, employment opportunities will automatically come up the moment you have these kind of industries in that area. One more example that you can do, suppose a village is situated near a forest. So the farmers generally, what they do, they procure a lot of wild honey that is organic in nature. So if there is a honey collection center somewhere nearby, then the villagers can automatically sell it there. They don't really have to go far. So these are various examples of industries or activities which can take place in the rural, semi-rural areas, and this will generate employment and better income for the people living in that area. Then comes this point. This is very, very important, related to everything. Now, do you know that India has about 60% of its population which comes within the age group of 5 to 29 years? That is, we are a very, very young country. Most of the people right now living are around the age group of 5 to 29. I don't belong to that age group, so I'm no more a young person. But 60% of that population as of now in our country belongs to that age group. So, but the fact is that out of this 60%, out of this 5 to 29 year people, only 51% are actually going to schools, whether it's high school, primary school, or colleges for that matter. So that's the threat, right? So so much, 60% of our whole population is young, and what are we doing? Out of that, only 51% is going to attend school, which is a very, very bad data. Moreover, We can also, there is also a study done by the erstwhile Planning Commission. Planning Commission was something which was there earlier, but 2015 onwards we have something called the Niti Aayog. We'll discuss it later more. So Niti Aayog is there. Niti Aayog did a study when they found out that in the survey it was found that 20 lakhs jobs can be created in the education sector alone. So what does this mean? It means that there is a lot of scope in the education sector. That means that if all these students, only 51% of the young population is going to school, only 51% is going to school out of the age group of 5 to 29 years. But if 100% people start going to school, what will happen? The number of schools, colleges that we have is less in number. We will require more schools, more colleges, more educational institutes, more teachers, more help support, more books, more publications, everything we need more in that case. When that happens, what happens? More job opportunities will be there. We require more teachers, more support staff, more people who work in educational institutes, right? So automatically when there is a development in the education sector, it will lead to creation of how much jobs? How many jobs? Approximately 20 lakh jobs created in the education sector alone. See, that is why we should educate our children, because the moment you send your child to school, if every household starts sending the child to school, automatically the government will be forced to make sure that the education sector grows. And when the education sector grows, means what happens? The need for more teachers and support staff increases, which means that there will be more jobs for these people. Now, the education is of course not related to only urban or rural sector, so it's required everywhere. So education is one point which is there both in urban as well as in rural. Now, Niti Aayog, let's understand some things about Niti Aayog. Though not directly a part of your syllabus, you need to know this because you don't know what kind of questions will come in the exam. It's your boards after all. So certain important things about Niti Aayog. Niti Aayog replaced the Planning Commission in January 2015, and it is considered to be the political or the policy think tank, economic policy think tank of the government. What is a think tank? Think tank is basically the organization where people work to develop policies to make the country a better place to live in, to make sure that there are better policies, better reforms happening in the country. And these people who work in Niti Aayog, that is their work. They are considered to be the think tank. Tank is a box, right, where you preserve water. So and basically they are basically a tank where they preserve all the better ideas which can make the country better. So that's why it's called think tank, right? So Narendra Modi is the chairperson of this Aayog, and the main idea of having this Niti Aayog is basically to make sure that a country attains sustainable developmental goals. We studied developmental goals. Sustainable means permanent, something which can be continued. So sustainable developmental goals were the main focus of this Niti Aayog. And the headquarter of this Niti Aayog is New Delhi, an economic policy making process. They basically make economic policies. And what is the way they do it? Bottom up approach. Bottom up approach means they believe that if you make sure that all the villages and the groundwork people are better off, if we can make their lives better, automatically the upper layer of the society will develop. So basically they started working in the rural areas, the ground level of our country. And bottom up means moving from the bottom to the up. Okay, but that was not the policy of the Planning Commission. Planning Commission followed from up to down, and Niti Aayog followed from bottom to up. That was their approach. Here they believe that if you could develop every village, if you could educate, digitalize every village, make health a priority in every village, automatically your urban areas and the bigger places will develop. So that is Niti Aayog for you. This much is enough. What do you see in these pictures? Of course, healthcare workers, some support staff were working in the health sector. Now, any kind of development can never happen if the health of the people are not looked after. So improvement in healthcare services has always remained a priority for the country and will always remain a priority. As a result, especially in the rural areas, okay, now we always need more and more doctors, nurses and support staff working, right now in this pandemic situation. What is happening? We have so many doctors and nurses and hospitals, yet we are suffering. Why? Because we still feel that there is a need for more healthcare setups in our country. Now we are building up, we're taking up hotels, schools, colleges and making them quarantine centers because we don't have that many hospitals. So what is this trying to indicate? It means that there is a scope of development of healthcare in our country. So that can be done. If we develop the healthcare, automatically jobs will develop in these sectors. If we start constructing more and more hospitals, you will need doctors and nurses to work there. So automatically the opportunities for jobs will start for both the doctors and nurses and healthcare workers in this particular sector. So health is another sector which has to be looked after if you want to create more job opportunities, whether it is in rural or urban area, but more in the rural area. Now again, this is probably the last one of one of the ways. See, there are a number of ways of improving the employment of the country to bring about more employment, but let's discuss and keep our focus upon these points which are mentioned in your textbook. There is one point which the textbook doesn't have, but I'm going to discuss it at the end of this slide. Encouraging the promotion of tourism, regional craft industries and other new services like IT will provide a huge scope of increasing the income and employment opportunities in the various states of our country with proper planning, support and implementation. Now what is this trying to say? It's trying to say that the government should focus on plan and governments should support and implement policies so that we encourage the growth of new occupations in our country, one of which is tourism. Tourism is one sector which has immense developmental scope in our country and we need to look after it. Now tourism does not mean you go to all the exotic locations. It means making sure promoting all the local areas, regions of our country. That is why we have now concepts like by Assam is doing awesome Assam, all those incredible India. These are various advertisements which you see in your media, various social media, in your print media, everywhere. So what is it trying to do? It's trying to promote, the government is trying to promote tourism, because when tourism increases, becomes developed, more and more people will get jobs there, whether it's in hotels, in any travel agency, people who are there, guides, everything, shops selling handicrafts. So automatically these are connected. So when tourism increases, your scope of selling all the regional handicraft and cottage industries will also increase. Other than that, we are also should focus upon vocational training. Now what is vocational training? A training which helps you to develop a better skill or a particular professional skill. Suppose someone who is not educated, we can still teach him how to operate a computer, right, after a basic education, and we can help him to become a better, maybe a carpentry, maybe tailoring, maybe sewing, there can be food processing, so many skills you can help a person develop. So these are new occupations and the government should make better plans to implement that to implement certain policies and programs to make sure that these particular occupations are developed, because when these are developed, your employment opportunities are more. Same applies for IT, call centers, everything is related to IT nowadays, right? So if you could train people in that particular sector, so many people will get jobs in the tertiary sector. Now there is one more study conducted by the Planning Commission which says that if the tourism sector is improved and developed, every year we will get employment which would be more than around 35 lakh. Imagine 35 lakhs employment opportunities across the country if we develop tourism sector. So this is something to think about. We should do something about it, because tourism is tertiary sector. We are developing the tertiary sector. It is contributing the highest to the GDP, but number of people are still less there. So if we can move people working in the primary sector, give them some vocational training, some kind of skill development program, and then put them in these tertiary sector industries, we will do wonders for our country, right? Okay, so this basically brings us to the end of what this topic says, but I am going to discuss certain more things here. One is that I said I'll discuss something very important, that one point that this book, NCERT book, has not mentioned, but it is understood, that if you want to generate employment opportunities in your country, or any country for that matter, one thing we need to do, that is primary, and that is to control the population. Whatever policies, whatever government does will never work out if the country is overpopulated. So we need to curtail and control our population. Okay, so that is one thing which is not there in the book, but it's a common sense thing, and you need to remember it. And if you want, you can add somewhere in your points. It will not get you negative marks in any way. Now let us discuss two important questions here that's mentioned in page number 29. Let's see what we can do. That is the thing. How would income and employment increase if farmers were provided with irrigation and marketing facilities? Now don't need to write it from here. I'm going to share the PDF of this answers, PDF version. Okay, now they are asking how, if there is a better irrigation facilities, marketing facilities, do you think that farmers' income will increase and they will get employment opportunities? Of course they are going to. How? Because irrigation means artificial watering, and when that happens, the farm output, your agricultural output will increase. Construction of any kind of dams and canals will automatically make the agricultural land more fertile, and they will grow more and more crops. Instead of one crop, the farmers will start growing 3 in a year, and that means they will produce more. When they produce more, they will sell more. They will go to markets which are bigger in size, and they will get a better income. And when they get a better income, what will they do with that income? They will end up buying more seeds, more machines, and next year probably they will produce more and more. So that is why it is important that that farmers should be provided with better irrigation facilities and better marketing facilities. Marketing means selling facilities. Of course, there should also be better communication and transportation and infrastructural facilities, because that is where you can go and sell your produces. Without that, you will not be able to reach the markets anyhow. And one more important thing is that when the irrigation is more, you produce more, right? And you have to sell it. And that leads to, when you have to sell something, you have to use transport and trade. So more and more jobs will be generated in the tertiary sector, that is transport and trade. One more important thing is when you are using more and more modern farming machineries, these machines will someday break down, and you will need people to repair these. So these are services which will start and which you will need. So automatically these related services, the need for these related services will increase. And finally, when you open up a better marketing facility, you are not just going to sell your agricultural produces. There will be other shops too. So this will provide a platform where other shops, platform means an area, where other shops can also start, and automatically this will lead to creation or boosting of employment. Let's discuss the next question, same page, page number 29. In what ways can you increase the employment in urban areas? Yes, we discussed, right now we just finished a discussion of employment generation in the rural areas. Now most of the points are similar in both urban and rural areas. You just need to be a little smarter to tweak your answers. Okay, now for urban areas, of course, it is you have to develop more and more small scale and large scale industries, because the moment you have industries, you will have more jobs there. Then when you have that, what will happen? Automatically tertiary sector is connected to secondary sector. Okay, you will need more services which support the secondary sector, so tertiary sector will automatically develop because of the development of these industries, which will boost the energy employment opportunities. Again, infrastructure, telecommunication, these are important both in urban and rural area. So that's why I said certain points will remain common whether it's your urban or rural sector. You just need to be a little smart. So infrastructure, development of infrastructure, development of education, development of vocational training, these are important areas common to both urban and rural areas. Again, you can promote the self-help groups. The self-help groups are those small groups. If you can encourage them to come up with something new, so you will again create employment in the urban areas. So these are health facilities. These are certain points which are common whether you are urban or you are in rural development you're talking about. So employment generation, whether it's urban or rural, health, education, infrastructure, self-help groups, vocational training, setting up of industries, related industries are common points which you can use in both these answers. But sometimes in the exam they may not give you like how do you increase employment in urban or rural sector. They can just generalize it and say how can you increase employment in a country like India or developing countries. Then you can write everything. Okay, both urban and rural. No need to divide and write it. You can write it together because most of the points are same. Okay, now let me discuss one more important question. How do you create more employment in secondary and tertiary sector? This also I just discussed. It's all related. See, if you know some, you will be able to write it. How do you start it? We just discussed it in our first answer. We built, what first you can do is that cold storages unit can be done, set up by the government. Can also start vegetable and food processing units. Okay, more jobs will be created in the secondary sector when large scale and small scale industries are set up like the dal mill I was talking about. Expansion of education and healthcare facilities will also generate more income and employment. Again, promoting your regional handicraft cottage industries will also promote employment in the rural population. Finally, one important thing that I did not discuss it in the last slide, that is building up multi-purpose projects. Now, what are multi-purpose projects? These are projects which are set up, which are taken up so that they can serve many purposes. Like for example, when you construct a dam, that is a multi-purpose project, because a dam, first of all, what does it do? It will provide water to all the nearby villages and areas. Okay, that is one. So irrigation is the first. It is also used to generate electricity. That is your second purpose. Third purpose could be it will save or protect or preserve the water for better times or for during droughts. Again, it will also protect you during the floods. Okay, so these are various ways. Also, it can be used for breeding fishes. Okay, so these are various ways where a dam is considered to be a multi-purpose project. It is a project which is taken up so that number of things can be done with it. Okay, that is why it's called a multi-purpose project. So this answer you can write it what I have said here. So similar, these are the points I picked up from urban and rural employment generation. It's almost the same, it's just that how you connect your answer to this. So basically cold storage units, small scale industries, large scale industries, these are points common whether it's a primary sector or secondary or tertiary. And secondary and tertiary generally they would ask you together because they are somehow related, because secondary sector will not be able to survive without the support of the tertiary sector. Okay, so let's come to the summary of this lesson. So what we understood is a number of ways to increase employment in the country, whether it is urban or rural area, whether it is a secondary, primary or tertiary sector. There are certain ways which are common everywhere. First is improvement of irrigation facilities, because more irrigation would mean better produce, agricultural produce, which means the farmer will be able to sell it better in the markets at better prices, which means you can also set up more secondary sector industries, which also means that when the secondary sector is set up, you will have to take the help and support of the tertiary sector for services which the tertiary sector provides. So automatically improvement in irrigation facilities in the primary sector is one point which you can never miss out in any of your answers related to this topic. Then better infrastructure, like I discussed, credits at reasonable rates by the banks, setting up industries in semi-rural areas so that you can develop these areas and local farmers can come and sell their produce there to these industries. Then development of education and healthcare goes without saying, has to be there. Vocational training so that you can help the people to learn and adapt new techniques and skills so that they get jobs in the new industries. Could be IT, could be tourism, hospitality. So these are the things. So this is basically the summary of this particular question. I am not really giving you much of a homework this time because I'm going to share approximately 9 or 10 answers which you need to copy it in your copies, in your economics copies with good handwriting. Draw the margin, don't forget the dates, because once the school opens we are going to check all your copies, and that is why mentioning of date is very, very important. Okay, so this brings me to the end of this video. I know it was quite a long one, but it's a very, very important topic that I covered today, a very general topic. A lot of questions come either short or long, generally long 5-mark answers, that what are the ways you improve employment of the country, or how do you see your country develop. Suggest a few ways of generation of employment in your country, in your urban. How would you remove disguised unemployment from your country? These are all the same things. Okay, the answer remains the same. I'm going to share the answer, the PDF of this particular video. Kindly go through the video and then copy your notes. Okay, so happy learning. See you again next week. Thank you.